This is the London Fintech Podcast, bringing you practical insights and approaches, stories and inspiration from the innovators who are building the new world of financial services. Welcome to London Fintech Podcast. This is the second episode together with our presenting partner and friend of the show, Plio. Plio is a holistic tool for modern finance teams, providing a single platform for businesses across pay, manage, optimize. So think employee expenses, corporate expenditure, multi-currency tracking, treasury management on one system in real time. I'm with Søren Lonning, the Plio CFO today, and given that it's the start of the year, our focus in today's conversation is about looking forward rather than backwards. So essentially, this is about how to lead and deliver your strategy effectively and the powerful role that data and technology has to play. Welcome, Cern. It's great to get the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Tony, and it's great to be here.
I know that how to make better forward-looking decisions with data topic is something that Plio is addressing with your clients. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective, although I'm also curious to hear about Plio's role in enabling those data-driven decisions and a bit about your growth journey. So there's going to be some retrospective in this conversation, inevitably, I think. So let's start with a bit about you. Can you tell us a bit about your background and career leading up to Plio?
Absolutely. So I've been a CFO for the last 10 years. So the last 1.5 years with Plio, but I've been CFO of larger companies. I've been CFO of smaller companies. I've been CFO across different industries from bioscience, hearing aids to now tech. And I've also been CFO in listed companies, PE companies and founder-led companies. So experienced quite a bit of different type of industries and companies. And also prior to becoming a CFO and moving into finance, I actually had a background from being a consultant with McKinsey and an investment manager in a PE company. So a little bit of a business strategic profile into finance.
Yeah, sort of a perfect background. And given that that Plio is essentially a CFO tech and you're the CFO, so you're sort of, I guess, almost the focus client as well as the CFO of the platform.
Absolutely. I get some questions once in a while from our Salesforce commercial team about, how should we position this? Which is really important for our CFO and so on. So absolutely.
Yeah, so walking in the same shoes as your clients. And what do you like to do when you're not at work, so when you're trying to switch off? Maybe that's been happening over Christmas. I don't know, depending how busy you were.
Yeah, of course, I like spending time with my family, wife and two kids. But then I also like to do a lot of sports if possible. So I run, I cycle, do gravel cycling, and then I try to play paddle tennis whenever the opportunity arises. So that's where I prioritize.
I think we're sort of in some way charting health and fitness trends on this show because I always ask people that question. I've had some interesting answers about scuba diving and horse riding, and paddles come up a few times. We had pickleball a few episodes back as well, but that's the first time someone says gravel cycling. So what's the distinction there?
Yeah, but it's quite popular here in Denmark where I'm based. Basically, you can say it's a little bit of a hybrid between a road racer cycle and a mountain bike. So it has broader tires and allows you to go out in the forest or in the hillsides. Not so like in mountain biking tracks, but being out, in nature. It's really growing in popularity here in Denmark, in Copenhagen.
Yeah, so sort of trail riding. I have actually seen those bikes. Some of them look a bit like racing bikes, but they've got these fat tires.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anything that gets you outside and keeps you fit is a good counterbalance to the time spent in the office. So look, let's talk a little bit about Plio's journey, perhaps to give a bit of context here. Look, what size and shape is the company today?
Yeah, so Plio, 10-year-old company, have hit just close the year here Jan 1st, and have hit 165 million euro of annual recurring revenue. And we have around 800 employees within Plio. And you could say just, going back 3 years, we were at 65, now we're at 165 million ARR. So we have grown more than 100 million or 150% over the last 3 years. So it's a growth company more than anything. As I said, we had 10 years anniversary, and you can say the ramping is really going on. And the journey of Plio have been a little bit, you can say, expanding from the original idea, which was expense management, into a broader spend management play. And now even broader and more, you can say, addressing the strategic needs of the CFO. So offering a broader palette, and that also includes cash management as an offering. So we continue to adapt and expand our offering to, you can say, leaders, you can say more than anyone.
That's quite some growth rate from 65 to 160. And the 100 million mark is a huge milestone for all fintechs. And I think sort of high 90% of those fintechs out there never get there. So congratulations on that. And I didn't catch it in your intro, but were you there right at the start, or are you more recent, sort of somewhere along that curve when you signed up?
No, I cannot take the honor for the entire journey. I joined somewhere between 1.5 and 2 years ago, but it feels in a very dynamic field like the fintech space and Plio as a company. It feels like you have already been there longer, but I haven't been from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, the firm has clearly established product market fit. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that growth rate. What's your view on how that may have changed since the original vision? But obviously, maybe you weren't there when it was being sketched on a napkin or a whiteboard right at the beginning. But with such fast-moving market, businesses continually need to recalibrate against what the client base are really looking for. And I'm curious how the product's evolved.
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting story, and I think the vision for the company started already with we have two founders, Jeppe, who is the CEO, and Nico, who's now on the board only. It actually started when Jeppe, all the way back, was helping his dad, who was an auditor, doing expenses, and he found it so tedious. This was before he became a professional. And then he moved into professional field, got jobs, and he still was super frustrated with the way expense management was done, doing paperwork to settle your expenses, collecting receipts and all that. So that's really you can say the idea, the foundation of the company that started already back when one of the founders was having a sidekick while going to school. And then you can say at some point, back in 2015, those two founders met up. They done other things in the fintech world together, and then they started. Okay, what's the next journey? And then they came back. They evaluated different ideas, and they came back and settled on actually solving this painful process around expense management. So that's the foundation of the company. From then, it has really evolved. I mean, from optimizing in this narrow field, just making that process easier, to becoming sort of like an AI enablement, spend management, cash management, basically taking care of all the spend in a company. So moving from a corporate card solution into also doing accounts payables, procure to pay, all of that process. And then, more recently, we just launched the cash management here during towards the end of 25, which also allows CFO and finance leaders to manage, you can say, the complexities of allocating funds and managing funds. So it's been quite a journey, starting all the way back from a study job, you can call it.
Yeah, and I imagine there's still quite some runway ahead because the financial management, treasury, CFO space is so broad, whether it's financial planning and analytics or it's stress testing or it's some of the functions that you talked about. So we'll come back to that about what's ahead. I am curious in that growth journey, perhaps, what's the best thing that's happened for Plio, or perhaps the biggest surprise along the way?
Well, you can say that the fact that you come up with an idea, you put it into action, and it really shows that there's product fit to product market fit, and you can also find ways of distributing in a way where it can really take off. Is you can say the overall story of it. If I was to maybe highlight something else, I think the journey where Plio have not been alone. There's been other companies trying to do some of the same things, but Plio really emerging as a European leader in this space. We have the size 2x of the nearest competitor, direct competitor in this space. Shows that whatever has been done and the way it's been thought about has really paid off. And it was also very visible when there was a big fundraising round back in 2021, where the company was valued in excess of 4 billion euro at that time. So it's been an incredible journey. Difficult to pinpoint one exact part, but there's ongoing proof that we're on the right journey, and we were actually able to to execute to create a European leader during that time has been, for me coming in, just amazing to see.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's what sort of fintech entrepreneurs would dream of, reaching the scale that you're at with the momentum that you have. Sometimes when you're in the daily grind, you're sort of turning the handle and you can't really tell how much traction you have with market. And then there are milestones along the way, whether it's a valuation or a fundraise, or it's your performance numbers, or it's awards, or it's press, or clients just coming to you that sometimes are a bit surprising. And we see it with the consulting company, right? It's a really hard slog. And then from time to time, we get an inbound call or we get recognition in some way. This show, actually, I'm continually tripping over people now who say, hey, I do listen to that.
No, but I think exactly that. I mean, what gives you pride in daily life is, is actually the customer feedback, right? That proves this. So we have pretty high NPS scores of around 50. And when I meet people, only finance people, but, people in an organization using our product, I mean, they really like it. It makes their life so much easier. So, that feedback is what really, how can you say, exemplifies and makes it very tangible for you that you're actually making a difference as a company.
Yeah, but it's not all plain sailing. So what have been the biggest obstacles or maybe even wrong turns that you feel the company took along the way?
Yeah, and bear in mind, I haven't been here all along the journey. I'm sure there's been a lot, because that's the nature of building a company and scaling it, right? That you try something, it doesn't work, and you need to adapt. But I do believe, looking back that, that fundraising back in 21, which valued company Plio at a very high price tag, I think was both, really great in some ways. It created the funding to scale the company, but in some other ways, it also had a flip side to that coin in the sense that, all that money needed to deploy it and the scaling of the company went super, super fast. And I think when you're an organization with 200-300 employees and you're starting to onboard 80-100 people every month just to ramp up, it's a massive undertaking. They're both getting the right people on board, so selecting the right people, but also maintaining the culture and so on is a big challenge in a process like that. So I think if you look to the largest obstacle that has had to be handled, I guess it's this super rapid scaling that took place back in 2022, 23.
Yeah, I mean, that's an extraordinary growth rate. So you're onboarding 20 new employees a week through that period. And it can just become, I imagine, a big mess, right? If you've grown up on startup, scale up rails, have all the corporate processes. And in many cases, big company corporate processes aren't really a help anyway, because they can be over complex. But how do you strike the balance between having enough control, but also empowering the organization to continue to move fast?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And I think that balance, was skewed towards the rapid expansion, and on some, then you subsequently need to sort some things out, and that's also something that we've been doing. But on the other hand, we wouldn't have been sitting here, maybe having this discussion, talking about us in Plio at 165 million euro ARR without having been through that process either, right? So that's the name of the game, and it's been exciting, and we still have a few legacy things that we are dealing with as a consequence of that. But that's also what shaped us and brought us here.
Yeah, you have to break a few eggs to bake that cake. And I'll probably come up with lots of sort of slightly overused sayings during this conversation, but that's one of them. And I do think that you just don't know until you get started. So you have to sort of hustle your way and trade through it and self-navigate at some speed. And as long as you've got a strong team around you and a common view of where you're headed, then you're pretty much going to be okay. But it gets a little bit hairy at times.
Yeah, and that's where I think, because it's difficult to scale your processes in that speed, but having the right culture, the right people side of things, that's where that really becomes the glue that keeps it all together.
Yeah. And of course, as you start to scale up and you're taking other people's money into the picture as well, you're placing ever bigger bets. So if the company doesn't take the right path at a certain point, these things could be, really major impact. And in some cases, for other firms, those decisions and going the wrong direction can be terminal. And the market is changing very quickly. So, and we've seen this in the AI space with huge amounts of Gen AI initiatives and startups, and then they get taken out by one of the frontier foundation models from big tech, and so sort of become irrelevant. And we've seen lots of firms pop up and then go away again. How does Plio stand out in this crowded fintech SaaS marketplace and stay relevant? I'm curious what that sort of secret of your success is that has kept you on this rapid growth rate and continue to appeal to your client base and scale the way that you are.
Yeah. So I think probably several things, but I think the fact that we have this European leadership position within spend management is one anchor point. We have the broadest coverage in Europe and the largest scale, which also enable us to stay at the forefront of technology and offering. I think there's another one element here, which is very much around the user experience, a relentless focus on the user experience, both when using the product and also how you handle the things when things is not working out exactly as you hope for, because that's what it's all about. Our product is about making life easier for many users and enable them to take better decisions, right? And coming back to, you can say that mission, which is really about empowering financial decision makers to tackle whatever evolution that happens in the financial space, that be in the sense of making processes less manual and more automated, free up time that way, providing better visibility over, scattered spend and cash balances, enabling better decision making as opposed to scrambling and taking decisions in the dark. And then also providing the finance organization with this, you could call it safety net, but the right controls in place for when spending is happening. So that focus on that mission has really also been keeping on to that and being very committed to that has been important. So, overall, I think you can say that Plio in some ways has developed into this go-to solution from being a card solution to now also a spend management, cash flow, and anything in between, all of that. Really, addressing some core needs and solving some key pain points for our customers. Be it time saving, more, moving from hindsight to foresight and providing more clarity.
Yeah, that's a nice lead in to what I'd like to talk about for a few minutes. Now, when we were discussing before the recording about where to take the conversation, I was asking about pain points and what problems you're solving for your customers. You've covered some of it there. At the foundation level, you're automating finance processes, but actually what you're really solving for is this scattered platform, scattered data, real-time decision intelligence, and some of the things you were talking about. And so we thought, well, maybe we should talk about data-driven strategy, because that's about leading effectively and not looking in the rearview mirror. And for me, company strategy is about identifying your business goals and ambitions and laying out a coordinated set of actions to get there. So it's very much the action. It's what the PE guys would call the operating plan, or the execution roadmap. I'm at A, I want to get to B. What are the set of actions, strategic actions that are going to get me there? And we find that really across the sector, those initiatives all sit in growth, efficiency, risk, and control buckets. I've yet to find anything with our clients or internally that doesn't fit in. And sometimes it's more than one, but so it doesn't sit in one or more of those buckets. And that's where the spend is going. That's where the transformation effort is going. Hindsight is a beautiful thing, certainly, but foresight driven by data is much more useful. And I know that you ran a report on this to really survey the sector, survey your client base. So I'm curious, what did you find out?
Yeah, so I think the overall headline to this is very much centered around this, that many businesses, they really base their decisions on hindsight as opposed to foresight, you can say. And they spend, particularly on the business side, business finance side, they spend a lot of time extracting data from multiple sources. They have data challenges. And there's a lot of shifting priorities also that they need to react to as finance leaders and finance organization. Landscapes are changing and so on. So, the sum of it at a very high level is that finance teams are simply just facing more decisions, more high-level decisions than they've done before. And the complexity, the expectations, the pressure also means that they are just getting low on confidence when it comes to actually making those decisions. And just to pinpoint a few data points from the reports, we asked a lot of finance leaders in our report. Almost 60% of finance decision makers, they are saying they're making more high-level decisions than they were a year ago. And for CFO, that is actually almost 2/3 that claim that. And that's very much related to greater business complexities, higher ambitions and expectations. Also within fintech, you need to grow fast, you need to scale fast to stay relevant, but also more economic and business pressure is cited as some of the reasons for. And this means that finance professionals, they are not fully confident about the decisions they make. Actually, more than 40% say that. And almost half of the financial decision makers, they state that they have felt decision freeze in the past year. And sort of like the same amount of people, or almost half, are saying that their ability to confidently make decision is negatively impacted by the lack of the right contextual data availability of that.
Yeah, those are some pretty revealing stats. I think you just said 40% of finance professionals are not confident about the decisions they make.
Yeah.
So it's slightly alarming. The half of the folks that you surveyed have this thing called decision freeze, which is, for me would be, I don't have enough information to make this decision confidently.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I need better data. Those are big numbers.
It is really, but it's also, you can say, somehow validating the relevance and the mission of what Plio is all about, because we as a company is trying to help bridge that gap between complexity and clarity, and providing more real time insight, so you can enable more forward-looking decision making. So that's the need of our customers, basically, and that's also what we are trying to address. But I agree that the numbers are quite staggering when you hear them.
Before we jump right into today's episode, a quick thank you to our sponsor, NextWave. NextWave is an award-winning consultancy that is helping many of the world's leading banks, investment managers, and insurers deliver on their growth, efficiency, risk, and control goals and transform their businesses. With a senior team who have come from MD level positions in major firms like HSBC, Barclays, and UBS, NextWave has both the deep industry expertise and the hands-on capabilities in AI, data, and automation to drive real results. More business outcomes and less PowerPoint from the consulting experience, as their clients like to say. NextWave has moved 2-week manual processes to 5-minute agentic automations, rescued global banking regulatory control programs, and digitized deal platforms, sustainability, and regulatory reporting systems. And they do much of this with hands-on engineering capabilities on leading technologies, which include ServiceNow, Alteryx, Quantexa, and Camunda. So if a modern and specialist alternative to the big brand consulting model sounds appealing, one which covers the full life cycle of strategy specialists and solutions, but with small practitioner teams, rapid delivery, and a better price point, then perhaps you should talk to NextWave. Visit nxwave.com to find out more and get in touch. That's nxwave.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. So let's put this into a bit of context, or at least give an example or two if you could. So we talked about the alarming proportion of finance folks who are not confident making decisions, and it's all very complicated and high pressure. But when you go talk to Plio clients, what are the things they sort of put on the table, perhaps practically, and they say, Cern, I need to be able to measure this because I've got to be able to do that, or the board are on my case and I just can't measure. Are there some things that are perhaps some live examples that you're coming across with the clients?
Yeah, so what I quite consistently hear when I talk to CFOs or finance leaders there's this desire to spend more time with the business. There's a desire to really spend more time, help shape the right business strategy based on a strong data foundation. We all know the saying that strategy without data is poetry. So there is this need for finance to engage and help shape that. also drive what investments are we going to make, and how do we drive efficiency, and how do we leverage technology, including AI, to really move the needle for the company. And the reality is that a lot of time is still spent on basic stuff. It can be back to chasing expense receipts for people in the organization not delivering that, consolidating data from different sources to create overview of where the money is spent, where the cash is, and what are the returns on that, all the way to statutory reporting requirements. So I think that's the overall notion. And just to provide input, where Plio can come in and help is as an example is, automated, free up time, can be making the transparency available. So you can see where's your spending going, what are the vendors coming up for, big ticket items coming that needs renewals, etc. So that's one of the areas where Plio can really underpin this to help free up time and create more visibility of what's on the horizon, basically.
Yeah, so allowing the finance team to focus on higher value things driven by data. Strategy without data is poetry. I've not heard that one before, but I'm going to bank that because I really like that. We've seen this with the Next Wave consulting team, and we're not so much working on the same type of automations that Plio does, and it's more a project-based analytics work. But we are fixing regulatory reporting, for example, with some of our clients, and we did a piece for one of the US banks a while back on LIBOR reporting, and took it from a 5-week process to a 5-minute process. And the enabler there was this was a next month sort of checkbox activity as was, but then became something which had real-time exposure information and could then be used by the desks to make trading decisions. So that it opened up a whole new opportunity for the client. And of course, it also took a whole chunk of money and effort out of the process at the same time. And when you were talking, I was sort of thinking, this is kind of the same sort of idea here, that we're automating away the admin and the foundation process. So we're freeing up capacity, but at the same time, we're surfacing real-time data that can be used for much more strategic things.
Absolutely. And a low practical example could be also cash flow forecasting, to know what are actually, what's going to happen on your cash position. It can be management on your entire, you can say, software vendor base. Many companies, as they scale, you have many vendors, right? And making at the forefront of when things are coming that needs to be maybe challenged, whether should we continue with that? Can we save money? And having that, automatically coming up in real time 3 months before the renewal is up, so you can plan it, is a small thing to just makes you more efficient and at the forefront instead of at the back end on things.
Yeah, it's often the smaller things that actually make the difference for your clients. So, real-time cash forecasting, I would say, is a big thing, but that would enable clients of Plio to make a decision about, well, can we afford to hire the people we want to hire next month, or are we in the right place where we need to be for tax and all the other things and everything hangs off of that cash forecast in the way that it does being on top of your P&L and the other metrics. Are there some, what's the coolest things in the Plio platform that your clients go, I just love that you do that? And it might be some sort of real-time alert or something.
Yeah. Maybe a few examples. I think there's of course, we have a spend policy. So we have an AI-based travel policy or spend policy, so that automatically guides in the spend at the time where employees are spending money. They can see, this is actually this is outside of policies. So you can shape decision making at the time where it's actually happening. So that's one example. Another example could be, given that we have more than 40,000 customers across Europe, we can create some benchmarking also. So if you're a professional service company in Germany of that size, you can provide benchmark into, hey, your travel spending is roughly 20% higher than other law firms that we see in Germany. So maybe that's something you as a finance leader want to just reflect a little bit about and potentially scrutinize. So those are some of the, you can say, functionalities and AI-enabled functions that a tool like Plio can provide.
Yeah, I love both of those, particularly the benchmarking one, because for everyone in business, it's what's everyone else doing? How do I line up versus the sector? Am I leading or lagging? So if you're able to show up and say, we've got another 20 companies like yours, and this is where you sit, I mean, that data point is super valuable for boards to really calibrate their strategy and how they stack up versus the sector. So I could see that being a huge benefit. You mentioned AI, and you've got this sounds like a sort of expense policy monitor AI in the platform. Maybe just sort of expanding on that one, but more broadly, AI is everywhere. This is going to be the year of agentic AI for some. Some firms are still head scratching on how to deploy, and others have gone all in, and the whole space is moving so fast. What do you see the impact of AI on finance teams, and how are you grasping the opportunity?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think, we already, seeing a lot of AI in finance, often embedded in the tools and systems that we are using. And honestly, I think I might, when new technology emerges, and this one is really one of the big ones, I think we tend to probably overestimate the impact short term and underestimate the impact longer term. So I think you can say making sure that it's available, it's deployed, you get experience, and you are really, really ready to scale it when you see use cases that can really lift it is critical. And then I think which many other things also, AI is also in a finance function. The stronger your data foundation is, the better and more use you can also get from AI. I would almost call it exponential benefits that you get when you have a strong data foundation. So that's the other sort of like overall consideration that I have, that AI can help you get better data, but it also, you can say, a flywheel in some ways that also allows you to get even better uses of that. Low practical example again from Pleo. I mean, we use it we have a credit offering in Pleo to our customers, and the credit rating is happening through a complete AI tool that we have built. And it's proven that one does a better job than when we have people involved in actually assessing, how large should a credit to a given customer be. So it's an example of something where you both take out some work and effort by automating it, but also actually get a better outcome. So I think that's a nice example of something that we are doing in our finance team here in Pleo.
So you've got an AI credit analyst that's working out how much of a credit line to give to your customers in the
Yeah, I mean, we are not a bank, so of course there's a limit to how much credit we offer. It's not like we were a major a bank, but this one is really doing, you can say, the long tail of the smaller credits, and then when it comes to the larger items, we it's a combination of a recommendation based on AI, and then of course some manual underwriting as well.
Yeah, and of course we are seeing this, and we're going to be seeing this sector wide. So underwriting and insurance, and lending by credit card companies, banks, and really across the whole sector. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens this year. Uh,
Absolutely.
only, only speeding up, and I think a lot of the foundation work and experiments of last year are starting to mature. So we're going to see a lot more things. Okay, so look, I mean, we're talking there about leading effectively, driven by data, and there's some great examples. If you can put your expense, your cash, your forecasting on platform, then you've got a lot of data, and if you have access to it in real time, and then you can analyze it using AI, and build projections and forecasts so you can make business decisions. That is essentially, and my words, not yours, but that's sort of, I think, the end state where growing firms would want to be. I mean, if you ask the CFO, what would you like to be able to do? It'd be probably some version of that alongside their many other objectives. It's and you've already built quite a lot of it, right? Because the platform's growing quite fast. So what's next? Or where are you going to go next on the product roadmap, or perhaps where you go in terms of the customer base?
Yeah, so I think if we look to, on our product side, there is definitely, we can always do better within, you can say, our core product, which is very much related to the spend management and the card side of things. You need to be paranoid. You need to continue to push. So you're all the time staying at the forefront of your core. Never forget that. I think we have an opportunity when it comes to cash management. It's a product that we are maturing, but also to take that from, you can say, cash management into a more fully fledged treasury offering. Basically taking care of everything related to treasury management within a company. And then on the you can say on the more market side, I think we will focus very much on the same geographical focus on our core markets, but we see an opportunity to go a little bit up market to solve problem not only for the SMBs, but also you can say upper market. And then we see an opportunity to do more strategic partnerships, which is also a way to bring Pleo to more customers that are already engaged in some other. It can be a tech partnership, or it can be potentially with major banks, where a way of bringing the benefits of Pleo to customers that haven't heard about us or the opportunity before in an efficient manner. So that's on the market side, you can say that we are looking at also.
That's really interesting. So cash evolving into treasury, working for bigger firms, because you serve mostly the small to medium business sector at the moment, and strategic partnerships. Is there anything you can say about that? I mean, you see that in the payment space all the time, and some of those are pretty powerful tie-ups.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can say we are engaged today in partnerships. So HRIS systems, travel companies, etc. Just to give some examples, but we see an opportunity to elevate this even more. And we have actually signed an LOI with a major bank, where you can say the objective is to bring the Plio offering into their customer base. And so in some ways, you could think of it, we could be competitors, but in reality, we're ending up working together to provide more value for the customers.
Yeah. And we've seen this across the sector, and starting quite some time back. I remember when the fintech sector was really sort of revving up in the UK, perhaps about 10 years ago. And there was this whole thing about digital lenders and how they were going to be squashed by the big banks. And then you ended up realizing that they ended up being distribution arms, because the banks had big balance sheets and they just said, oh, this is another way to reach an extra set of clients. And that co-opetition model, I think, is surprisingly powerful when you get it right.
Yeah, I like that word. That reflects the situation very well, I think.
We've come up with a few new phrases in the last half an hour. So what would be your advice for would-be fintech entrepreneurs from what you've learned so far?
Well, based on my 1.5, 2 years experience in the space, I would say there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of pain points to solve for customers. Definitely opportunities are there. Linking back to AI, I would think AI into everything you do, in whatever you think in terms of solving for clients. And then I would just caution also people that, getting that compelling product market fit, but also distribution fit, you can say, it's not trivial. It's hard work, and it requires a lot of refinement, and don't be, how we say it, scared from not making in the first. There's opportunity to adjust along the way, but getting that right. I would also, based on what we have discussed here, just say think partnerships, because really a lot of opportunities to engage with other players that, about bringing something really unique to customers. And then when we talk about fintech, I also just have to say I'm being responsible for that in Plio. Think hard about the regulatory requirements as well. It varies quite substantially depending on what you choose to do, and it can be incredibly complex to handle that efficiently. Yeah, those would be some reflections, at least I would have.
Yeah, quite a lot there, Cern. So that was almost your top 5. It might have even been your top 7 things for would-be fintech entrepreneurs. So, but in amongst that, the ones that stand out for me are staying really close to your clients and really having that commercial product market fit focus from the very beginning. And I've seen lots of fintechs that are focused mostly on the products and say, hey, we're building the coolest thing, but if you're just not talking to the clients in the market and establishing that fit and that demand right from day one, then you're more than likely going to miss the mark. And we've seen that happen quite a lot of times. Is there another fintech out there that you admire? Oftentimes I speak to folks on this show and they sometimes it's a competitor, sometimes it's a different sector, but there are firms that go, yeah, those guys are really, really impressive. And I really like the way they're going about it.
Yeah, there are many companies that are doing really well, first and foremost. So it's difficult to pinpoint one. But if I'm to maybe try to find a UK example, I would say it's difficult not to be impressed by Revolut, how they have expanded their business scope and are doing it well, and how their relentless execution focus have been pivotal in bringing them to where they are. So, I mean, that would be a company that, even though we have a very small sort of like overlap potentially with the smallest of business customers, that would be an example of a company that I think has done really, really well.
Yeah, that's a great example, and a shiny new office down at Canary Wharf, which I've not been to, but you know, all of the metrics on that business are really impressive. And I think one thing for me is that they seem to have they've had criticism along the way, and they've had to knock a few rough edges off, but they've just kept their eyes on the prize and really motored ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think that
And
resilience
it's
of
difficult not to avoid a few bumps on such a journey.
yeah. Anything that you're reading or listening to currently that you might recommend to the audience?
Oh, I was just about to say when you said reading the Plio annual report draft, which is going on, but I would not recommend that. No, I've just read actually two books. Just read our former Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, on my watch. He was the secretary for 10 years, and with all the geopolitical things going on at the moment, I think that's a quite interesting book there. I don't have any fintech specific, but I also reading a book right now that is called How Big Things Get Done, which is all about why big projects succeed and also why they fail, which is frequently the case. And it spans all the way from home renovation to big space exploration and everything in between that. So it's one that's quite. There's a lot of good insights from that book. So I actually found that quite interesting. Also, I'm just starting it, so I can't share what's the highlight from me yet. But I like it.
Okay, so if we do Plio episode number 3 at some point, we can check back in and get Søren's book review. But at the moment, you're just starting.
The NATO one was good, particularly with everything going on right now, Greenland, NATO, whatever. It's a quite interesting one also to just get some extra context for what's unfolding as we speak right now.
And anything that you're listening to, any other podcasts? I'm curious what's out there, and you don't have to say LFP, of course.
Or podcast, of course, Tony. That's the one.
Well, there's 5 million of them out there, and so it's a crowded space. There's something for everyone. Okay, so look, we've been talking for a while, and thank you for sharing the perspective on those practical examples of how so important it is to have real-time data in your decision making, and how some of the things that might seem a bit laborious and administrative that are powering every business can actually be lifted up and automated, and there's an approach to take these things onto platform and modernize, which I think would be interesting to everyone who's in the business audience out there. So thank you for that. Anyone want to find out more about Plio, the perspectives we've been talking about on the show, or you?
Yeah, so of course I would encourage everyone who has interest, who thought some of this was interesting, to go to our website just to check Plio out, but also to read the Power of Better Decision report that we have, which you can find also on our webpage, in addition to everything about the tools that Plio is also providing. So yeah, that's a way to get a little bit more info into what we have discussed today.
Thank you. And I wish you and the team every success going forward. Seems like you've got a huge amount of momentum. So, and especially if you've traded through the last 2 years with the growth rates that you've got, then you should be able to navigate pretty much anything that lies ahead. So wishing you every success with that. And thanks for coming on and talking about it.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Tony. I appreciate it. Thank you.